baby.
He kicked off the show. Worst guest ever.
And we're live.
Welcome to another episode of Addicted to the Q. I'm Brian. We got the bum, Brad, and our special guest, Brett Gallaway, one of the co-founders of the SCA. So, Brett, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. Good. It's a busy week, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah, it's World's Week, isn't it?
It is, yeah. This is our signature event. We'll have 600 teams from around the world, 400 of them cooking steak, about 200 cooking ancillary, and then we have a rib world championship and an ancillary world championship. So it's a big weekend for us.
Holy
nice.
Well,
before we get into that, I want to kind of get a little more friendly where we kind of know each other more. I've done some digging. I see that you have a ranch. Was it goats I saw that you had on there?
Yeah, we got goats. We got chickens. We have a couple geese that made their way home this year. My wife's really happy about that. But, yeah, it's I've always been a big city guy until I got into barbecue. And then all of a sudden you're cooking around these majestic courthouses, and you're in downtown Mueller, Texas, and there's this majestic courthouse. And I started to love small town America. And my wife came from a little town called Burnett, Texas. And basically it's a popcorn fart on the map of Texas. But it's a small town, and I've started to really love small town. And, after the economy was right, and I'm like, let's sell the house. And we moved out here, and we call it Gallowayville Ranch. And it's very relaxing. It's a totally different lifestyle for us.
Now, one thing I did find I'd like you to explain is how you kept your goats warm when you guys got to freeze.
I'm an old restaurant guy. So I went out and bought, when you go into a walk-in and they have those vinyl curtains.
Oh, yeah.
My wife's like, you're going to do what? I'm like, well, in restaurants, we have these curtains that keep the cold in, the hot out. So I bought vinyl curtains like you'd put on a walk-in. I put them in there, and we have one little light heat lamp, and it keeps them warm in the winter.
How long did it take to get them to go through there?
That took 2 days. I started putting their food inside, and they're like, oh, I think I need to go in. I'm hungry. So, the gut usually leads people.
Yeah.
That is great.
Are these those fainting goats that you see that I laugh at all the time on the videos?
No, they're not. They're miniature goats. So they're about 2.5 feet high. That's as big as they'll get. But they're cool, man. I have one Waylon. My goats are named Waylon and Willie, which is the name of my rub line, because they brought so much joy to my home that I hope it brings it to people that buy the rubs. And then we got Reba and Dolly. Hell, we got country music nailed, don't we?
That's
so
awesome.
they're great, man. They if I have a bad day at the office and I come home and sit down, and he's got a hankering for Crown Royal, I hate to say, but Willie and I will share a little beverage, and life's good.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
All it takes is a couple goats, man.
I thought Willie had a hankering for something else.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Well, Willie had I just don't share that with Willie. Or Waylon.
Everybody's got to get some.
Yeah. Now, I also saw that you had some books, recipes from the ranch.
I do, yeah. I had this idea 10 years ago, and originally it was my kids. We have recipes that we've cooked throughout the years from my kids, in our house. And I said, well, let's make a book. We're not going to all be here forever. So I thought, let's make a book that our kids can remember the recipes that they grew up on. Well, I wrote some recipes down. This is 10 years ago. And I moved out here, and I built what I call the grilling arena, which is that way. Yeah. The grilling arena. It's a 20 by 30 covered patio with another area for storage. But for me, this just kind of got me inspired to cook. And so now I started doing recipes, and I got lucky. I moved out here, and there's probably I think there's 81 homes out here, and they all have a couple acres. But I met the greatest people, and none of them really cooked a lot. And I got them all interested in cooking. So now I got like 12 sous chefs, man. It's amazing. And we've been working on recipes, and it ended up we had too many recipes. So we released the first one. It's recipes from the ranch, and it's appetizers, drinks, and desserts. And the second one we're calling Texas Meat Sweats. It makes sense. We're in Texas. So, and it focuses more on meat. So the second book should be out probably another 2 weeks. If I'm lucky, I'll be done. And a month later, it'll release. But
Are you doing paperback, hardback?
I did a self-publish through Amazon. Mm-hmm. So we have paperback in it. You could also download it, and then we have hardbacks as well.
Okay.
So it's been a learning process. Anyone that thinks it's easy, oh man, there's nothing easy about it. It's a challenge, but in the end, I'm leaving something for my kids, and that's why I did it.
That's awesome. Now, do you grow anything on your farm that you use at the steak comps? Like
no,
nothing.
We have chickens and stuff.
I'm the Yeti.
Yeah, fun Yeti. All right, let's restart this shit.
Okay,
Sorry.
so
I don't know who's editing this shit, but you got a lot of work to do.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just gonna let all it fly.
Perfect.
We're screwed.
Welcome to SCA.
Welcome to SCA After Dark and to get to the Q After Dark.
Yeah,
All right,
right.
so
the casting couch call.
how many steaks are you allowed to cook? Do you have guys have a max, or can you cook 10 steaks and turn your best one in? Like, what is the protocol on that?
Are we on Real Deal now?
Yes.
Okay. In SCA, the promoter provides the steaks to the cook team. So each cook gets 2 steaks, which they choose. So we line up the steaks on a table, and we give out poker chips out of these purple bags that I'm pretty familiar with, but they're Crown Royal bags. You reach in, you grab your poker chip, and if it's number 7, you pick 7th in line. So if we have, let's say, 30 teams, we go 1 through 15, 16 through 30. And if you're number 7, you pick right in the middle of the first table. So once you pick your first steak, we get to the end, they switch tables because everyone thinks the best steaks are on the other table. So once you switch tables, we reverse the line. So it's 15 through 1. So as number 7, you have to wait a bit. And there's people who think, man, I want number 1. But if you get lucky to get the first chip,
then you're very last.
Fuck her up, man. Yeah, you're last. Exactly right.
So I've cooked an SCA. I've done it once. It's several years ago. And yeah, exactly. Say now, you said earlier, 400 people are cooking. So that means you got to have 800 steaks. How is it one provider that's doing that for you, or is it multiple? I mean, for consistency, how do you manage something like that?
As a promoter, that's the hardest part because one of the hardest parts. We provide the steaks. So we found there's actually a company, Standard Steaks, in Fort Worth, Texas, that are in the Fort Worth stockyards. They provide steaks for some of the highest end steakhouses in Texas, and that's who we got to provide our steaks.
Oh,
we gave them our standard, which is 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 boneless choice ribeyes, and they're going to provide the steaks for the event. So everyone's cooking a level playing field. It doesn't matter if you have more money than the next guy. I competed barbecue. My first barbecue event, man, I shopped at an H-E-B grocery store, and I bought a 99-cent a pound brisket. And I thought, man, I'm killing it. I got this great 99-cent brisket. Guess where I finished? DAL, dead ass last. We need to plug the computer.
So if you qualify for the Worlds with an ancillary, are you allowed to cook steak too, or do you just cook the thing that you qualified for?
No, it's a great question. If you qualify for the world, you have to have a steak golden ticket to cook the steak section of it.
Okay.
If you have an ancillary, you can cook in our rib world championship and our ancillary world championship.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't get you into everything. And we have a lot of teams. I don't handle that side, but Ken said like 45% are qualified for both.
Oh, wow.
So they have a steak golden ticket and an ancillary golden ticket.
So if you've already, say I cooked and I've already won a golden ticket, that the golden ticket gets passed down to the next team that hasn't won one. Is that correct?
That's correct. If you've already won a golden ticket, let's say you have one and you win, it goes to second place at your competition.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll see cooks that'll wait till the end of the year going, oh, well, they already have their golden tickets. Let's wait till the end. It can fall to 10th place. That way we have a representative from every event.
Wow.
But generally it doesn't fall that far.
Yeah.
It's real neat. And the golden ticket has built a lot of interest for us. You know, everyone wants that golden ticket. It's like Willy Wonka, man. Give me that golden ticket.
Yeah.
So is garnish allowed in the turn-in box?
In the steak turn-in boxes, no. It's just a steak. Nothing allowed in the box other than we put a silver disc in there. I was an old restaurant manager. I owned a CC's Pizza for a while. And so at CC's, we had to-go boxes for pasta and salads, and they had these silver discs in them.
Yep.
Well, when we started, we'd put a piece of foil like most organizations do, and people would cut it, and judges were like dripping boxes, and it was such a train wreck. And we said, well, let's put I had the idea, let's try this. Well, now it allows judges to cut in the box. It doesn't cut through the bottom of the box. And it's uniform for every team has one in their box.
Okay.
Now, how do they present it? Because you said the judges cut it. So is it just a whole steak? I mean, I've seen the way it looks. It looks round like a hockey puck. So
sometimes
each judge takes a piece of it and they judge that piece because it's not pre-cut like in KCBS where you get a rib or a piece of chicken or a brisket slice or something like that.
I wish I had the diagram, but the steak is kind of a teardrop. Sometimes it is kind of that you talk about a hockey puck. It's trends, man. You see sometimes round steaks are winning, sometimes long. And what it is teams are trying to cut every ounce of fat off of that steak as possible. To me, fat's flavor. I want that tail on there.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get one that has enough meat and the tail won't curl, I leave it on because in my mind, it looks like a ribeye. But sometimes that tail will curl and they'll just cut it off, and that's why it looks round. It's up to each cook, their individual preference. But they're allowed to trim before they cook it steak, but not afterwards.
Ah, okay.
That's
I didn't realize that.
In certain markets, some steaks do better. Sometimes a more trim steak does better, and sometimes a teardrop does better. It just depends on the market.
So if you don't anticipate how it's going to cook to finish up, you could be in trouble.
Correct. Yeah. It's at the World Championship. The hard part is we have judges from, I don't know, probably 8 countries at the World Championship. Mm-hmm. So there's judges from all over the world, and they all, have their preference. In my mind, good is good. And the best ones rise to the top.
So with that said, that's how many from different countries you have judges. Obviously, you have how many different countries are represented for the teams competing? Do you know that offhand?
I just might, because I'm a numbers nerd. We have 15 different countries represented this year at the World Championship.
Wow.
Last year, let's backtrack. Last year, we had 53 international competitors. This year, we have 85 international competitors, which
holy cow,
mind blown that these guys are paying a minimum of $3,000 to fly over here to cook 2 sticks.
Yeah.
So we're real proud of that, really excited that these guys have taken time out of their lives and spent the money they do to come. But, you know, last year, the guy that won the Ancillary World Championship was from the Netherlands.
Yep.
And honestly, that could have been the best thing to happen to us, because people realize, as big as this world is, the cooking world has got a lot smaller with SCA. So guys over here, all right, I have a great story. I went to Japan to teach a judging class, and I walked by a table, and there was 4 guys sitting there, and they're watching a video. And I walked by, and I'm just curious what they're doing, because I'm nosy. And I look, and they're watching Malcolm Reed cook an SCA steak. I immediately took a picture and texted it to Malcolm and said, check this out. I'm in Japan. These guys are watching everything we do here, and they're mimicking it there. Like, the stuff they're doing, they're on the exact same plane we are. So it's really neat. It's not, the internationals have just the same chance as anybody else.
Yeah.
Daniel Rader got 3rd in the world a couple of years ago, and he's from Europe. But he's also won the European Championship 3 years in a row. Someone else won it this year, but he was 3 years in a row. He won it.
So have you gone, how many countries have you gone to where you've either competed or taught a class to do that?
I no longer compete in SCA. Well, I've never competed in SCA. Just, man, if I won, people go, man, this guy was a world champion in the past. Yeah. But honestly, what's going to happen is the majority are going to say it's rigged.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no way this guy can win.
Yeah.
So Ken and I, as partners, decided it's not a great idea for me to cook. And that's why it took SCA an extra year to get started, because I wanted to compete. I love nothing more than competing. No matter if it's bologna, steak, whatever it is, give me a shot. I want to do it. Mm-hmm. But it took a year for me to give up myself to go, my job before it was about me. My job now is to make much of others. Man, let's make new world champions. I love that now. And now that's my goal. Let's let other people have that.
Well, and go ahead, Bradley. Sorry.
So what was the reason, what was your purpose or reason behind starting SCA? I mean, what was your goal to accomplish? What was the thought process behind it?
Well, when we started SCA, Ken and I were a cook team. We're United Steaks of America. We had a great time, and we won 8 out of the 9 cook-offs in America, right? But when we won the world championship, we watched how things were done, and we were disappointed. And the good news is we cooked the best cold steak in America that day. And it sounds weird, right? But it's very deflating when that happens. So when we did that, we went to another event. And at that event, we were very, very disappointed, because I cooked the worst steak I've ever cooked in competition. And I know that. Ken knows that. And we got a 5th place out of 90 teams.
Oh, wow.
And the guy that won had won 3 years in a row and donated the money back every year. How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
And 4 of the 5 teams were world champions. And the one that won was just a local Budweiser distributor. To me, that wasn't right. And I went home, and we're on our way home. And I tell this story at every class. Ken and I are on our way home, and he's like, we need to call somebody. This isn't right. And he's like, call KCBS. I'm like, well, KCBS does barbecue. They're the gold standard in barbecue. Man, when I cook barbecue, I want to cook at KCBS. I said, but there is no one that does steak. And Ken's like, man, we need to start something. Well, what Ken didn't know is I already had this logo designed, because I was frustrated with the judging at different events. But when I designed it, it was SCL, Steak Cookoff League. And, I didn't, at that point, we ran it by some people, and they're like, well, it should be bigger than a league. So we called it SCA. And so we called it SCA at our first event. And from there, it just grew. It was interesting. there was no governing body. There was nobody that had a set of rules. It was just this event did it this way, this event did it that way. And I was friends with all the promoters because we cooked all their events. But luckily, most of the guys were behind us and gave us little tips and said, we're doing this, we're doing that. And the majority of those events became SCA events. So all we did was take what they were doing and just kind of standardize it. You know, when we won the world championship, there was 6 judges sitting in a storefront window with blind judging, with 5-gallon buckets in between each of them. If they got full, they said, just suck on it and spit it out. You're judging me on texture, and you're going to suck on it and spit it out.
Yeah.
To me, it just didn't sit well, and Ken agreed, and it took 6 months before we decided, hey, let's actually start this. We ran our first event in, where were we? Lake Louisville. And we had 42 teams there, and we shocked everyone. We had 2 tables of judges instead of 1 table like they had for 87 steaks.
Wow.
Do you want to taste 87 steaks?
No. I love steak, but
How fair is that?
Yeah.
Plus, there's no differentiation between the first one and the 87th. After a while, they're going to all taste the same.
Correct. So we ran 2 tables that weekend, and we thought, all right, we're on to something here. And teams liked it, and they asked for more events. It took us about 6 months to have our second event. And when we did, we went to the National Barbecue Association conference. And like I said, there was 9 events in the country before we did that. We left there and we had 19 events our first year. It was because of the connections. And I know you guys are involved with that as well. It was the connections we made at that event that were important, that helped us grow. And we've been there every year since. We're a big part of it. Ken was on the board. He was the finance guy, or whatever you call that, for the last couple of years. He just stepped off this year. But, you know, MBBQA is a big part of what we've been and how it helped us grow.
Well, that's awesome. So kind of back to with all the international teams and everything.
Sure.
I'd kind of like to play a little word association or name association. If I name off an SCA cook, just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
This. I don't know why he's laughing back there, Sasquatch.
Eric Van Emst.
Yes, he is from the Netherlands.
Yep.
Yeah, good guy. He is friends with Remco, which is our ancillary world champion.
Yep.
He's a hell of a cook.
He should be over there this weekend, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so, I'm impressed. You've done your research, man.
Well, Eric, last year I had the opportunity. I flew to the Netherlands and I cooked the KCBS comp. Eric supplied all of his stuff. So kind of one of those things where the what horror stories are made of. I landed in Brussels and got into a car with a guy that I'd never met in person and drove an hour and a half north and hung out with him for the weekend. So
no,
he's a great guy. He's very good. He
guy.
Loves, and the reason I mentioned him first is exactly what you talked about. He told me, I don't know, he mentioned probably 6 times that weekend, you know, I'm missing a double cook this weekend, Kevin. A double SCA is just a few, to help you out. It's okay. Okay. I appreciate it. But the SCA over there seems like it's surpassed what KCBS is doing. It's just huge from what I could tell. It was really impressive.
You know, we're very lucky. We've had a good presence, and that's because of Harry Havinga over there in Europe. He actually brought KCBS to Europe. And then he is now with SCA and has done a great job. Harry has of building Europe, and we've got a really nice presence over there. I think, and my numbers are bad, but I think we had 30, let's go with 34 events over there this year.
That's quite a few.
Think about the size of Europe compared to Texas.
Yeah.
Texas is the size of, all
everything
of
over
Europe.
there. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, it's been really neat, and those guys are very passionate. You remember when Pitmasters was at its height like 9 years
Yep.
ago?
Yep.
And that's how they are now about SCA. They're just fired up and passionate, and I love it. And we try to go over there and help support as much as we can. And Ken and I are both realistic. We realize we're just lucky and blessed that things are growing the way they are. It's amazing the passion that those guys have over there. And then you got the guys from New Zealand and Australia, and man, it's just cool how guys over there have just really taken to it.
It is.
And I think a lot of it is the 1 day concept. You can come in, cook 1 day, and you're done. Whether it's a single, double, triple. We just had a quad, right? We just had a quad, 4 events in 1 day in Toowoomba, Australia, plus 3 ancillaries.
Dang.
Good God, when do you drink?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's a lot of turn-ins in 1 day.
That's more than a KCBS comp. I don't know if I could handle that.
I don't know if I could either, honestly, if I was cooking. But
let's throw another name at you, Tad Keller.
Oh gosh, that's undone. I love Tad. He's a good cat. He's out of the Kansas City area. He turned me on to the tacos from it's a local taco place.
Oh, are you with the powdered cheese?
What's that?
With the powdered cheese? Is that what?
No, it's not an expensive place, but they have these cheap tacos that are amazing. He brought them to an event for me.
We've got so many. I met Tad at a comp down in Oklahoma City, and I've enjoyed many a bourbons with him, and gave him the nickname Shig Knight at a comp once. So that's what I call him, Shig Knight.
Shig Knight.
It's his rapper name.
Yeah. What I love about Tad is he is super. Dude.
What did you do? Why did you touch the phone?
we can't see you. There we are.
We're back. Yeah.
Don't let Sasquatch touch you.
Okay. Keep the animals away from the phone.
Because I'm like
He
90.
told me, he asked me to turn it up, and I hit the button, and it went black. So there you go.
So what I love about Tad is the guy is super creative.
Oh yeah.
He started Gemini Fixtures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he has created some really neat things that are allowed people to, like he has a PK deal where it has the PK grill, but it also has a riser rack on it, which a lot of our cooks use.
Yep.
So he's very creative, and he actually just created a system that I really appreciate. It's a Crown Royal Guard. It has a lock on it so people don't drink my crown.
I saw that. Yeah, he does some cool stuff that is really neat, really creative guy. So definitely.
Do you know what Tad does for a living?
He flies planes for fire. Take care of the wildfires and everything. Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
He's a jack of all trades, I call it. Full of energy. I think that guy's on uppers all the time. So
I think so. He doesn't share, but yeah, he is.
I've tried. I've shared many beers and bourbons with him, but yes.
Yes, he loves Crown too.
I'll do one more
Keep
name
going.
here, and I'm gonna butcher this last name. Half on purpose, half because I will. Tyson Kayakamanu.
Damn, you did pretty good because I butcher his name every time. He's a great guy. He's from the butcher shop up there in Kansas City.
The Uppercut KC.
Uppercut, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, he's a great guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Tyson, I've known him for a while. He's the head butcher there. That's where I get all my briskets from for comps. And yep, great guy. I'll share a story about him in a second, but first he did text me. I texted him that we were interviewing you tonight, and he said, I need you to ask this question. He said, ask Brett to define bone in versus on the bone.
Son of a gun.
Craig Carter.
All right. So we have a cook named Craig Carter. So Craig Carter, an event, decides, well, the rules aren't clear enough. So he took his ribs and he shaved it off. It said on the bone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he made individual ribs without a bone, basically boneless ribs, and then laid them on top of the dang ribs. Now, I give credit, and I always give Craig credit, but damn it, boy. You're making me create more rules than I want to create.
Well, he's not
And I love
wrong.
Craig. He's a good buddy.
I figured there was something there. I said I got to hear
Yeah, there
this
was a
story.
story.
So Tyson actually. So this leads into my kind of question. This past week, so I'm actually doing a steak comp this next Friday coming up in Kansas City. It's for a charity event. Only 501(c) charities can compete, and my daughter's part of a charity, and whoever wins, they win $1,000 for the charity. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. Well, I made Tyson give me a crash course in steak cook. So I went over to his house and I think we were there all day long, but it was good. I learned, I mean, like I said, I've done one SEA. I had no clue what I was doing. It was really interesting. So we're cooking sirloins is what we're cooking. So a little bit different than a ribeye.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. And Tyson's like, oh, I got a challenge here. So, but we had a good time. It was, I was amazed. He puts, I won't share his secrets, but he put more rubs on his one steak than I put on my brisket. But he cooked one, showed me the whole process, kind of went through, we talked through it. And then I did one and I kind of picked out the flavor profiles he had with the rubs he used and paired them with some of mine. So it was a good time. We used a riser that Tad had created. And that I'm actually cooking it on my, I have a bullseye, which I love. So we learned about that. It'll either go to 500 or riot mode. So
one of the other.
There's a throttle in between. You got to kind of keep it at that 600 or so that I need. So
I think the new ones do.
Yeah, the new ones do. And unfortunately, I don't think I could get away with buying another new one anytime soon. But
I feel you, man. My wife's on me.
But no, I enjoyed the heck out of that. And discussing that with Tyson and just, cooking is cooking and just hearing his philosophy. And I could see his interest and how he loved what he was doing. And I told him, I said, well, if I do well at this charity one, I might sign up for the Backyard Royal Steak Cookoff just to do it. And he's doing the Backyard Royal. I said, don't set up next to me. I'll be staring at you cooking your steak the whole time and not pay attention. So, but
no, it's fun. Things change, things evolve, and guys are using different techniques. Layered rubs, and it's interesting to watch how things have changed. From year 1 to year 10, and it's interesting. And Tyson does a good job. He's a fun guy. I love that guy.
Oh, he is. He is so good at the dry one-liners. He can come in. He should be a comedian on stage. He'd be awesome.
Yeah,
at it.
He would kill it, man.
Yeah. So what's next for SCA? Where do you see the next evolution? Every organization should evolve and change. What do you foresee possibly for what you've got going on, Brett?
It's a great question because everyone does need to change and evolve and keep growing with the times. And if you don't, people will pass you by. Mm-hmm. So, we this year we have done some things to help continue and try to keep growing. This year we added, we've been working on it for 2 years, but we do, sometimes we'll do an event in a city and they're like, man, we're doing 3 steak cook-offs. And what you'll see is 2 of the events will do well and one won't do well. They'll struggle. Well, why is that? Why will one struggle and the other 2 do well? Well, now it's not an event. It's just another weekend. Oh, well, if I miss this one, I can hit the one later in the year.
Sure.
So what we've offered is, hey, we can now do a burger competition that you, if you want to do a burger as your middle competition or your first, that's fine. If you want to do tacos, you want to do burgers, you want to do wings, you want to do ribs, we can do the individual standalone events and make that the star of the show. steak will always be our bread and butter, but we wanted to also appeal to these guys that want to do 3 events in a year and give them another opportunity. And I think, we grew too fast during COVID.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, because a lot of people really suffered during COVID. People were looking for something to do and an escape. We went from 300 events to almost 600 events after
Holy
COVID.
cow. Dang.
Because we shut down for 6 weeks and we're like, what are we going to do? And honestly, we live on expendable income.
Yeah.
People that have extra money, hey, let's go do a competition this week. Well, you're gambling. You don't gamble unless you have money.
Yep.
So we thought, what can we do to keep us relevant during COVID? And we did a burger competition. We had almost 200 entries, a virtual burger competition.
Yeah.
Then we did a virtual hamburger competition, or we did burgers and then we did dogs. And the dogs, and the funniest one was, it wasn't him.
Was it Dan? Dan
It
up
was,
in the Chicago area?
No. It was a guy out of Memphis area. He took a picture and sent his burger in, and man, that was a funny looking. It was a great burger, right? Then behind the scenes, he sent me a picture of his burger, and his dog was in the backyard taking a dump. I was dying laughing. The guy got top 10. I never posted the dump, but the guy got 10. It was a great looking burger, but if you knew the backside, it was hilarious.
That's
like,
great.
How do you catch a picture of that? But those crazy little things kept us going, because we didn't know if we didn't know if we'd be around after COVID.
Yeah.
Like many of us, we didn't know what life held past COVID.
Yeah.
And, we were really scared because, we lived on expendable income. Well, during COVID, we shut down. It was 6 weeks before we did anything. And we got a call from a promoter who's like, look, I got a field and I got a barn dough over here. We can judge in the barn dough and we could spread people all over this field. I was like, let's do it. And I talked to Ken, of course. Ken's a reasonable part of SCA. And I talked to Ken. Ken's like, all right, what are the logistics? How can we? And I explained it. And he's like, let's do it. Well, we did that and it went well and everyone was safe. And knock on wood, if I had wood around me, we never had anyone get sick through our events. And we kept going through SCA. And as a matter of fact, we doubled in size.
Wow.
Which is crazy. But, if you don't roll the dice.
Yep.
And we never got anyone sick, thank God. It was great. And it helped us grow. But unfortunately, now we're on the other side of COVID. Well, now we have more events, but we haven't added the same amount of cookers.
Yeah.
So in the last calendar year, I turned down 87 events.
Oh.
And people are like, why are you doing that? That's crazy. And I'm like, because if I take this event, it will hurt that event.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd rather have one successful than 2 that just flounder. So we turned down 87 events, and last year we were still up for the year, but we knew that we still had too many events. So this year we have pumped the brakes a little more and been even more selective. And so we're looking down this year over last year, but man, we want to be, because we want every promoter to be successful. Why have an event if you're not going to raise money for a charity?
Yeah. Is there an optimal number of teams you want to have that's best?
Yeah, like 30 teams is our sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah, you get 30 teams, you're good. You're going to make some money. And so what we decided this year is we're going to offer a variable payout, which I was totally against. And 2 years ago, they ran it in Utah. And I said, boys, you're in trouble. People want to know what they're going to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, last year in Utah, we had 0 cancellations and I talked to teams. I'm like, what do you think about this? And they said, Brett, man, it's great. We know if we have this many teams, we need to call our buddies and get more teams there So it'll raise the payouts. And then if we have a big event, we're going to make more money than we usually would.
Yeah.
And I was short-sighted, honestly. When I competed, I'm like, looked at the payout, and I'm like, no, I'm not going. And that was a bad move. But it's neat to see how the teams have responded. You know, we did have a lot of cancellations last year due to the economy, but we had less than the year before.
Mm-hmm.
So this year with the new deal, we've had 0 cancellations so far. It's up to the promoter. If he has sponsors and does a great job, man, let's go.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, then and he's not great at getting sponsors, go with the variable payout. And then the more teams you get, the more you pay, but you're still going to make money along the way.
Yeah.
So it's, man, we're still learning this thing. I went to Barnes and Noble, man. There is no how to build a cooking organization from ground one. That stuff doesn't survive. That's
It
not
sounds
part
like
of Barnes and Noble.
sounds like another book in your future.
Could be book 4. I'm
There you go.
I'm working on book 3. And I've got goats. You guys saw you
Yeah.
were on my social. I have my buddies Waylon and Willie. They're my goats. If I'm having a bad day at the office, I come out there and I drink a little whiskey with my goats. My day's better instantly. Those guys make me laugh. So my next book, it's a kid's book. It's going to be Waylon and Willie teaching kids to cook. And you guys know who Patrick Carlson is?
I've heard the name. I don't.
He's the guy that designs logos, barbecuelogos.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Patrick has done all my work for years, and he's gonna illustrate it because he's written a couple kids books. Mm-hmm. So we've already talked about it. All I have to do is send him it, and he's gonna. I lost my hearing aid. So he is going to. He's going to illustrate the kids book. Man, how cool is that?
That's awesome.
That's cool.
That is awesome.
Not only will my kids get to read the books in the future, my kids will have books to read to my grandkids.
Yeah.
To me, that's the coolest thing ever.
That is fantastic.
So lucky.
I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. So everybody loves hot dogs. I want to create the HDA, Hot Dog Association. I'm going to call you, get all the insights of starting this, and then I'm going to go around and have everyone cook hot dogs for me.
Starts in Alaska.
It starts in Alaska, you said.
Why are you obsessed with hot dogs, Brian?
I love hot dogs.
That's
I'm not going there
for another show.
We're not really trying this out.
Hey, it's people ask me because I have a friend that started the Rib Cookoff Association recently.
Yep.
And they're trying to pit me against him. And I'm like, that guy's my buddy. Honestly, the more people that are out there cooking and competing, the better. Because the hardest part is to get someone from their backyard. Everyone's the king of their cul-de-sac, but do they have the confidence to go out and compete?
Yeah.
So whether they want to cook steak, they want to cook ribs, they want to cook something else, the more guys out there competing, the better, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it grows. It's the only way to grow we call it a sport. It's the only way to grow it is if we expand it and get more people interested. I mean, whether it's young people, with all the high school organizations going to, I've done stuff with the local VFW and Wounded Warrior Project, to you name it. It's the only way to grow that stuff is if you expand it. If we keep it in our little circle, it's going to eventually die. So
no, that's right. Let's face it. Where else can an overweight man like me compete and do well?
Yeah,
I certainly can't play football. I can't bowling, man. I can barely bend over. I'm so old, my back hurts too much to bowl. So cooking, man, I can flip a spatula pretty well. Yeah, I mean, we got to find ways to help continue to grow this thing, or we're going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, every organization faces that reality that we got to be relevant to the future, and that's a big challenge for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just visualizing what kind of flavor profile you have to put on a hot dog, or how long you'd have to brine it, or what you
I just want the steak grill marks and 5 layers of rub. Bam, we're good.
I think you're toast on that one. You know the the interesting part of the hot dogs is, in my opinion, people way overdo this. You can't even see a damn hot dog on them. They got 9 layers of things, and they hide the hot dog. Sometimes I think if you just got a ballpark Frank, a nice bun, wrap that thing in foil and threw it in your Cambro for a while and then turned it in, you might win.
Yeah.
Yep. I just throw a strip of mustard on it and I'm good.
There you go. Yeah. Guys, like a lot of our hot dog turn-ins they've got, 3 strips of brisket on it, 2 strips of bacon. You can't even see the meat.
Yeah, that's like Bloody Mary events. Bloody Mary competitions drive me nuts. I'm like, it's not a meal; it's supposed to be a drink, and they've got all kinds of stuff on it.
6 ribs on